We have
Yes.
a term we call finished compost. And what does that actually mean? One of the most interesting things I found was that there's actually no scientific definition for finished compost.
Really?
There is no laboratory procedure to measure compost that says, okay, once you reach number 10, you're finished. Okay.
I see.
There's no agreed method. Now, there are methods for measuring compost to see how far along it is,
Right.
but there are different methods and they produce different results. And there's no agreed upon correct method to determine finished compost.
That's you think we can measure how spicy a pepper is. That's what is that Schofield thing? Which
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like who cares about that? But something like compost, it should be, I don't know, like a weight or, I guess you'd look at it under a microscope and see the size of the particles or something like that.
Well, one of the common methods is that you take this compost and you incubate it and you see how much CO2 it's producing.
Ah,
Right? If it's still very active, then it produces more CO2 than one that's less active,
right. That
right?
makes sense.
Um, but some people say, well, that only works with certain types of materials and only with certain combinations of material. And if you change the input materials, then it doesn't work so well and you get different readings. Bottom line is that there is no measurement for finished compost. Okay, so you and I, we decide it's finished either when we don't have any more patience to make it go any farther, or a common description is that once the pile cools down, then it's finished. When we look at it, we can't see most of the original material, right? We'll still see orange rinds and corn cobs and
Eggshells.
eggshells and some of these things because they're slow to decompose. Pieces of wood will still be there. But for the most part, the soft leafy stuff has turned into black stuff.
Yeah.
But our eyes are so poor at determining how it's decomposed that, as long as it's black, we call it finished. The good news is that it's really not that important as a gardener. So once we get to a point where it's no longer heating up, we can probably put it into our garden. Now, a lot of people will let it sit and age, and I'm not sure quite what that means, except that it makes people feel good. So they leave it for 2 or 3 months to age, and then they use it.
They're waiting for it to look like coffee grinds, like that perfect black look,
Perfect. Now, there is some science here that does make sense. So if we take material that is very high in carbon and low in nitrogen, and we put that into our soil, it does tend to rob nitrogen away from our plants. Right? So that's one of the reasons why you never want to take wood chips and bury them into your soil, because they will actually reduce the nitrogen level in your soil, which means that plants have trouble getting nitrogen. The same is true with compost. If it's too fresh, the carbon level is still high relative to nitrogen. And if we put that in soil, it will actually take nitrogen away from our plants. So it'll harm them that way. And the heat may also harm plant roots. So there is a point where it's better material. So if you want to use it right away, what I would suggest doing is just mulch with it. Keep it on top of the soil. That will not rob the soil of nitrogen, and the heat isn't an issue, right? If you want to be on the safe side, you let it sit a little longer. Now, if you're digging it into a garden bed, it probably really doesn't matter because you're not going to be adding that much material. On the other hand, some people use the compost in pots and then they plant, seeds right into the compost. Some people use 100% compost. If you're doing that, you do have to be more careful and you have to wait till it's aged a little more. And the best thing then is to run a little experiment. And in fact, this is a valid test for finished compost, one of them. And that is you take your compost and you plant some seeds in it, bean seeds, pea seeds, something that germinates easily. And you see how they do. If they germinate and grow normally, normal sized leaves and so on, the compost is finished enough to use. On the other hand, if it's too fresh, you'll get seedlings that are crippled.
I
So
see.
they won't grow straight, or the leaves will be kind of crippled and crunched and so on. And you'll see right away that the seedlings aren't doing well, or they might not germinate at all.
Mm,
So a test that gardeners can use is simply get a pot, put some compost in it, put some seeds in it, and ideally beside that, do one with soil, right? So you
yeah,
need control. So you
control, yeah.
have 2 pots, one with soil, one with your compost. Put 5 seeds in each one and see what happens. If they sort of germinate the same and look the same and they both look healthy, then the compost is ready to use.
Hey, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here, go to Vessies.com to buy whatever you need for your garden this year. And use my coupon code GAVS23 to get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in the order and there's no oversized items in the order. Check out the description box of this video for details. You can buy everything you need from Vessies. They have seeds, fruit bushes and trees, soil amendments, pest solutions, tools, clothing, and lots of other stuff too. So yeah, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here and they sell something you need, buy it from them using my coupon code, and happy gardening.